Hello. Food prices, supermarket greed, and monopoly. That's what we have at the moment. Can you imagine, just for a moment, that in Australia in particular, and all around the world, there have been many inquiries by government and people like the ACCC, all different bodies around the world are differently named, but they're the same process. They've had many, many inquiries and recommendations and a code of conduct, which they don't have any sort of, if they do something wrong, they don't really get a slap on the arm or no fine or nothing. They just do what they please, the monopolies. But there is an answer, in my eyes, to this and a solution. Because of the, there are lots of people saying, look, let's hold them accountable and let's make sure they do the right thing. That would never work, never does. But if you say to them, I tell you what we're going to do, the big two in Australia are Coles and Woolworths. Imagine if law was passed where we didn't deregulate them and say you can only have 15% of the market or 20% of the market. No, they can have as much as they like. However, a solution would be to say you can still run your big stores, but you can no longer sell meat products, no fresh fruit and vegetables, you can't do that anymore, and no bakery. That is actually about 40% of their sales. Have a bigger impact than saying you can only have this much percentage of the market. Because if they're left with all those, imagine if you go to a supermarket, you'll see most supermarkets are the same all around the world. You walk in, there'll be a meat counter over the very end. In the middle, there'll be like vegetables and fruit. And then you'll have a bakery of some sort in the same area. So for them, if the duopoly in Australia, Woolworths and Coles, couldn't sell meat, fresh fruit and veg, and bakery items, they're left with 60% of what they currently have. And that would ensure they would have to be competitive in a very large way, because they have to now compete without meat, fruit and veg, and bakery. It would also allow, and bear with me for a second, because when I was a kid this used to be the case, it would allow to have butchers selling their meat products, bakers selling their products, and greengrocers selling their products. And if you can imagine your local store, which has the meat section, the fruit section, the bakery, all in one area, imagine if a big wall was put down that section and that was all now independent stores, a baker, a butcher, and a greengrocer. They would be very competitive, but above everything else, you would return to what used to be service. An old lady could rock up to the counter of the butcher and say, what's that bit of meat used for? How do I cook that? And trust me, butchers are some of the best cooks in the world. They know their stuff. They'd say to the old lady, what you do is you braise it for about half an hour, put a bit of foil on it, and blah, 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 blah. And she, oh, lovely, thanks. And can I have some bones for me dogs? Yeah, sure, you can have them for free. That's what they used to do. And a greengrocer. Where did that apple come from? Imagine going into Coles or Woolies and saying, where did the apple come from? The young lady or man would say, out the back. No, where was it grown? Oh, I don't know. Just come in a box. We just put it on the shelf. Greengrocer would know. He'd say, I'll go down early in the morning and buy my products from the wholesaler. They say, these came here from Queensland, and this is from up north in Western Australia, and this is from South Australia. He'd be able to tell you where the food came from, instead of someone generically saying, I don't know. And a baker. I remember when we lived in Richmond in New South Wales, there were a couple, but they were Vietnamese bakers, and the bread was brilliant. If you go into Woolies or Coles and buy bread, you look at it and think, not sure about that. Trust me, everyone does that. I watch them when they pick up the bread and go, no, not sure about that. But what I'm trying to say is, instead of limiting the amount of stores that the duopoly has in Australia, it is to limit what they sell. It would bring back service, competitive pricing, and above all, you get more bang for your buck. So all the government inquiries, the ACCC and all this nonsense, which has been done before many times, nothing happens. But if you actually said, this is the law in Australia, the supermarkets can no longer sell meat, fruit and veg, or bakery, and they became independent. Like I say, just imagine your store where you live, where you shop, and you know what I'm saying. Meat down one aisle, veg in the middle, and at the back the bakery. Pretty standard, all around the world, believe it or not. And they were like local butchers, and they were a local greengrocer. This is what used to be, by the way. It always used to drive competitiveness, and you get knowledge from where the food came from. So there is a solution. One's going to be pretty hard to bite when these big companies say to the government, I tell you what, in your next election, Mr. Smith, if you back us, we'll give you 150 grand in your campaign. Does that happen? Yeah, happens a lot. But if it was law and it was passed, that over, say, a 5-year period, I'm being very reasonable here, over a 5-year period, they have to phase out their butchers, their meat section, the greengrocers and their bakeries. And why I say phase it out, because you need to phase in a baker, a butcher and a greengrocer. It can be done on a very steady platform to the point that a certain date's given, and that's it. So Australia, there is a solution. And it's not just to do these inquiries and committees and, bring the CEOs of these companies to the Senate and say, you've been really naughty, haven't you? Nothing happens. A slap on the wrist is at best what will happen. But Australia and the rest of the world, if you decide to say, I tell you what, we're going to have butchers back, we're going to have bakers back, and a greengrocer who know their stuff. Nothing against the staff in these shopping centres who just stack the shelves. That's their job. They don't need to know the knowledge. It's all written on the label. Apples, $50 a kilo. So if you want to get service and price competitiveness back all around the world in all the shopping centres, take away their monopoly of all the products. Let's get back to service and price competitiveness. I haven't been paid for this ad, but I can tell you that maybe if something similar happened, things would change. If you have been, thanks for watching.